Origin Clear is a company that focuses on wastewater treatment.
And hello, everyone. And welcome to the Water's the New Gold CEO briefing. Our mission is to transform the water industry.
Decentralization offers us this opportunity.
The plan that you've built here is super impressive.
The world is experiencing a crisis in regards to water. It's a great opportunity that you are giving us investors.
The decentralization of water treatment means that we no longer need to establish giant water treatment plants.
Let them fight over the 20%. Let's work with the 80% that's untreated.
Over 21,000 unique alternative investments.
3 million jobs in the U.S. alone.
Making it easy for the regular investor.
All the old trends just accelerated.
Lucrative and fulfilling.
The vision I've got is to standardize these products.
Design, build, own, and operate.
We have 65 people in the room.
We got an important message here to the world.
We can put a guy on the moon, but our water is horrible.
Recycling all that water, it's a huge impact for the environment.
Bringing new infrastructure in, drive growth in America.
That's a critical part of the picture.
It's a twin 125 gallon per minute RO system.
I don't think we're talking about a $10 million fund. We're talking about a series of $10 million funds.
Yeah. The opportunity itself is very big.
Yes. Take care of the water.
Not too many CEOs do a weekly briefing and are willing to talk to individual investors.
Hello, everyone. I do not exactly sure why I have a blank screen. There we go. Stopped and restarted. It's always a good trick, right? The next step is to take a hammer and hit the thing. These are tried and true, tech results, And from James Wright to everyone, good evening, everyone. Hope all is well. Yes, indeed, we have so many amazing things. And Andrea and Ken will join us shortly. Meanwhile, I'm going to get started with this party. Water is the new gold, and never more than now. Our vital mission is to help the world invest in water, the new stable, inflation-friendly asset class. So let's take a look at what's going on right now. First of all, real fast, this is your statement that we, of course, are always giving you forward-looking statements that we have to qualify by law, but we do our very best to fix them as we go. Okay, next. This week was, 2 days ago, was World Water Day 2022. And our position on that, the actual World Water Day promotion this year was on groundwater, which is not specifically our job. We're not specifically focused on groundwater, although our division, Progressive Water, has cleaned up aquifers in the past, and that's a cool case study of theirs. But our job really, as you know, is to fix the treatment of water, which is falling apart. And so this is what we promoted a couple of days ago in World Water Day. Okay, now, current capital status. Well, guys, we made it. We were at 994,600 last week, and the full amount that is in water demand is 1,098,600. On the far right, you see actual banked is 1,700,000. Anyway, so over 1 million. There's still a few that have not made it into the banking process, but as you can see, we are solidly in the $1 million bracket, and we're super, super happy about that. This is a red letter day for us. And as you can see, we have an announcement. I'll quickly go through the announcement to give you what we basically said. Okay, so again, first $1 million milestone in dedicated capital. This is capital that can only be used for secured purposes. And now we're also evaluating the first pilot opportunity to treat dirty water by the gallon as a managed service. This is super cool. All right, actually it's more than one. We have quite a few of these going on. And also we are in discussions with partners. The bottom paragraph here, Origin Clear plans to work with regional water service companies to build and operate the water treatment systems it finances, which is significant because we have competitors in water as a service, one of them being the very large company, Seven Seas, which does entire islands, private utility for entire islands using desalination. And another one being Cambrian Innovation. I reviewed this a couple weeks ago, which is doing a great job with mostly breweries and food and beverage. But both these companies, first of all, insist on building their own and doing their own finance. Our difference is that we have innovated to create Water like an oil well, meaning that it's very similar to an oil well partnership, but for water. So that's number one. We're bringing regular investors in to create these programs, these zero capital programs. And the second thing is that we don't want to try and build all these systems ourselves and try and manage them, because we'd still be building that network 10 years from now. It takes a long time to build these networks. So instead, we're going to create a web of relationships with regional water companies. We're already in talks with at least two that I know of that are firm discussions. And I see this as like our Tesla supercharger network, right? Because once we have relationships with these players, then it's hard for others to jump in. So we kind of want to become sort of the master player in that respect. Okay, so that's that part. And then there's that potential client that we're talking about, and also different kinds of clients. And we're going to do we're going to bring Tom Marchicello and Dan Early back on board to talk about these mobile home parks. And by the way, Flash, we've had a big success with the Troy, Alabama site where we had to do a lot of hard work. You remember a couple of weeks ago, we had Dan Early on site in Troy, Alabama, and the Ponster is refined and operational and has finished its pilot and is commercial. Again, we'll do a special coverage of that. So mobile home parks, campgrounds and RV parks, new real estate developments that are built beyond city sewage systems, small to mid-size breweries, food processing, etc., flavor and fragrance, smaller labs, and specialty agriculture, such as, for example, CBD oil production. So that's the kind of stuff that is very suited for water on demand. That's quite a few what we call verticals, right? Vertical markets. It does expand, it goes beyond that, but these are the ones that are most natural for it. And we have potential water on demand customers in several of these categories, which is why we mentioned them. All right. So now here's the other thing that Tom said in this release, which is that there, as you know, COVID and the freedom to work from home, WFH, allows families to move to the country or even to suburbs. And that's been a big change. And the cities have gone through New York City and Los Angeles have had a hard time because of this. Well, the problem is, of course, that these rural and semi-rural locations have small water treatment sites or no connections to sewage at all. That's where we come in. So this is very, very key. It's a mega trend, in other words. Okay, this stat tells it all. The central infrastructure is not being funded. And sure enough, we talk about this in the release, less and less money to municipalities. And so it leads to underfunded infrastructure and the need for industry and agriculture to do more real water treatment on their own, which we are enabling with this finance program. And as you may have heard before, we were on a prime time show and we will be getting more. Okay, so that's that part. Now, today, our own Ken Berenger made a presentation to the Money Show, which was super cool. I'll just show you one slide from the thing right here. And this on the right-hand side is the slide. And basically, it was very well received. And we will get the recording and play it to you next week. It should be very, very cool. All right, so with that said, let's move on here. Now, last week, as you know, I had a technical problem, and it was actually good because we cut straight to that live, what one shareholder called the Couch Summit in my condo, and it was actually really cool that we did it. But I do want to play it because it's got some tremendous information in it.
Did you know Americans drink more than 1 billion glasses of tap water per day? That's a lot of tap water. And that's just tap water. I was thinking about this. That's not bottled water. That's specifically tap water. And as water scarcity continues because of climate change and our constantly changing climate and where water is moving to and from, this can pose some really big challenges to our water supply in the future. And that is exactly why I'm speaking today with sustainability champion Riggs Eckelberry, who is the president and CEO of Origin Clear, who he saw this challenge and decided to do something really interesting and innovative about it. So Origin Clear created something called Water on Demand. And it's basically a pay per gallon water recycling system that businesses and housing developments use to treat water on their own in order to become self-reliant, which makes a lot of sense. And Reza will dive much more into that. And so today what we'll be discussing is really what OriginClear does, what that term water on demand really means, and also why are investors so interested in water.
In America alone, we have a problem with infrastructure. For some reason, we don't fund infrastructure, and the current administration funded about $55 billion worth of infrastructure, which represents less than 1 year of the backlog. So each year, we're falling behind about $75 billion in what we should be spending. So what's happening is infrastructure's falling apart. And of course, water is still being made dirty. Nobody stopped that part. So as a result, businesses are being forced to do more and more of their water treatment, which is good and bad, right? The good part is actually that they can recycle, they can pay less money, and they can also, by taking the load at the edge, they can, say the central infrastructure doesn't have to do as much. It so happens that 87% of all water is made dirty by industry and agriculture. So if you're going to go for the biggest problem, then obviously you're going to go help businesses, and that's what we're doing. So let's take, for example, of a brewery that's making lots of beer and they're selling lots, and all of a sudden the county says, I'm sorry, we can't take your stuff anymore. And now we want to make more beer, but now we're trucking it to other counties and we're doing all kinds of things. And along comes a company like us and says, don't worry, we'll help you do your own water treatment. Now, the next problem is how to pay for it. This brewery would like to spend money on beer equipment, not water treatment equipment. And so they don't have the budget for it. And that's when we came up with this amazing idea of water on demand, which is don't pay for it. We'll take care of that. And you just pay as you go. Pretty much the way you're accustomed to with the city, but it's us. It's a private utility. And that is what we're doing. And it's really exciting.
I mean, that sounds really cool. And that what you just described with the brewery example, is that the water on demand?
So the paradigm
aspect
is, number one, people having to do their own treatment. So private water treatment. And number two, getting rid of the capital problem completely. Now, that means that we have investors who come in and they help us purchase the equipment. And we keep the equipment as an asset of ours. And then people are basically paying for use, just like we pay for using Microsoft Office, right? Now, Microsoft Office used to be $130. You paid for it and you were done. Now it's, $20 a month. You're paying more, but arguably you're getting more value. You've got the cloud and you've got, real-time support and all these good things all built in. So services are, I think, the way everybody's going. And it's strangely enough, it took a long time for water to get around to that, but it is happening. Now, here's another interesting thing. Right now, as we speak, commodities are just taking off. Oil, gas, foodstuffs, fertilizer, you name it. It's all just taking off for really reasons that are beyond your control and mine. We can't do much about it. But for the investor, for many investors, the opportunity is already gone. The oil already took off. Many of these prices are out of sight already. I was looking at gold, and gold just, okay, well, they're over $2,000 now. Okay, So the question is, how can I get into an asset that is not already, taken off? And the answer is that water has just been liberated. It's been desocialized, liberated from the cities and turned into a private thing. And now there's an opportunity to invest in a water system the same way you would in an oil well, make royalties, get stock in the company, and really help create this new productive asset. And our idea is to do it democratically. The other big thing that's happening, as you know, is that all the elites are snapping up land and all kinds of resources. They haven't done it for water yet, because again, water has been sort of the domain of the government. So our idea is, instead of having one Jeff Bezos own all of water, let's have 10,000 or 100,000. Divide Jeff Bezos into 10,000. You still have a lot of money. So let's give individual investors an opportunity to jump into this as the new hip asset. And guess what? It's water. How fun is that, right? And I can tell you that we're close to, we just started raising the money for this capital in November. We're close to $1 million already that we're ready to start spending. And the program's rolling. We're super happy about it. And this is coming from everyday investors. It's not coming from some big fund, right? Because the everyday investors are the people who believe and they get it. They go, oh, I get that. That's cool. So we're super happy about, people like you and me actually jumping into the water industry and, making, good returns on their investment.
So I guess there's this concern that by privatizing water, I guess you may be limiting access to some people.
The fresh water doesn't come from, fresh water still comes from the city. We're not changing any of that. We're talking about treating the dirty water. Do you know that throughout the world, 80% of all sewage is thrown away into lakes, rivers, and oceans? I think we should take responsibility for that. I don't think we should delegate it to the people who are not doing anything about it, right? So people go, oh my God, you have a right to water. Yes, you have a right to clean water. We're talking about making the dirty water clean, right? And this is something that's urgent. Dirty water is killing 6,000 kids a day in the world. As we're speaking, hundreds of kids are dying, right? That's a sustainable idea, is cleaning the darn water. Years ago, Andy Young, who became the mayor of Atlanta, said that if you put a pipeline through Africa from Cote d'Ivoire all the way to Algeria, one pipeline would eliminate 50 diseases forever in Africa, right? Why? Clean water access, right? Now, the part of the big problem is we're wasteful of our water. Israel recycles almost 90% of their water. The second in the world is Spain at 20%. The US, 1%.
Wow.
We're great. We throw it all out. We're good. Meanwhile, we have droughts in California. And in fact, California is an obvious example. But do you know that the biggest aquifer in America, the Ogallala Aquifer, which is the Midwest, is 1/3 of all produce is produced from that one aquifer, is down in some places as much as 130 feet. And that is going to take, centuries to replenish. Groundwater does not replenish like that. So we got a real problem because that we're overusing water, and then we're being very profligate and just, letting it, and the oceans are getting filthy. I think it's a scandal. And we're being told not to worry about it. And then tap water. Go to Environmental Working Group, ewg.org /tapwater. Put in your zip code if you're in America, and you will see what's in your water. And it's not a happy thing. So I think that we need to actually fix the quality of the water. And it seems to me that if I'm a responsible business and I get water from the city, why shouldn't I get 2 or 3 turns from it, right? What? Everybody right now in America is just taking it and throwing it out. And it's not the fault of anybody. It's the fact that, it's a paradox that old infrastructure is a handicap when you modernize, right? Now you are stuck with your old infrastructure. So the sewage systems that were built in America a century ago only went in one direction, from your toilet or your machinery or whatever, or your kitchen, straight to the wastewater treatment plant, and then into the lakes, rivers, oceans, right? Treated. I'm not saying they weren't treated, but they were wasted. There's no return trip. It's not built into the system because it's old. Basically, water on demand is a way to let the existing infrastructure be there, but create a new one that is light and responsive and actually sustainable. And that's where we are answering the sustainability challenge.
You're not privatizing the public water. What you're privatizing essentially is, if I'm a business, I use water, I make it dirty, I'm allowing that business to clean it and then reuse it. You said 2 or 3 times, but in theory, could it be infinitely? Or there
is a loss factor. Also, you have to make a decision. For example, a brewery, are you going to use it to make beer? Many people would say no. right? So, but you can, with non-beer uses of the water, you can recycle 50% for wash downs, steam vessels, various uses. So it's really a decision about how you want to use the water. Again, realistically speaking, I would say at least 1 turn is fair, maybe 2. And also you can throw it onto your lawn, right? So gray water reuse is another way to do it. We have a client right now that is launching a luxury hotel. And we're not able to say who it is yet, but this is a new product line of ours, which cleans the water, the incoming water for an entire hotel. Ultra premium water. It's not just that bottle on the dresser when you walk in. It's everything, the shower, the kitchen, you name it. It's all perfectly clean. And so we're doing that for all the hotels in that chain. We've been sort of adopted as a preferred vendor. But our real hope is that we're going to help them do some gray water recycling, because it's very virtuous, right? All of a sudden you get a little sign on the lawn that this water has been recycled. So that's very nice. And then you can also get, for example, all kinds of carbon benefits, because, when you take sewage and you send it far away, you're actually incurring a carbon that ends up in a big, you've seen those big circular ponds that spout it all, and all that nitrogen and stuff goes into the air. Well, there's a way to treat it right on spot without doing all that. And that has been shown to be a net positive gain for climate change. There are areas of high adoption of this new idea. Obviously, not everybody wants water on demand. But who does, for example, is in America and elsewhere, people are moving more and more away from cities. This was a trend already, but it was accelerated by COVID and work from home. And all of a sudden you can move to Colorado and keep your job. And so people are, there's housing subdivisions being built in all kinds of interesting places that are not served by sewage or very poor sewage, right? We have a client in Troy, Alabama that has a trailer park, and all the poop in the trailer park goes into a lagoon. And throughout the South, the poop is in the lagoons. Well, the departments of environmental quality in Alabama and elsewhere want to do something about that. So the easy thing was, well, why not just connect to the city sewage? The city goes, no, we don't want that. So now the city won't take it. They're forced to put in their own water treatment system. And that's what's happening. So there's mobile home parks, trailer parks, RV campgrounds, housing subdivisions. Breweries are an excellent one. And mainly because breweries have a very high output of liquid. And it's not very toxic, but there's a lot of it, right? So certain users are better than others in terms of their adoption. But basically anybody who wants to set up shop away from the sewer grid is either going to spend $5 million to connect to sewer, but maybe the city won't even accept it, or they just build their own system and Bob's your uncle. They're set.
Building your own system is extremely expensive, and that's really where OriginClear shines, because you don't have to actually pay to build your own system. You just install it basically for free, and then in this case, the trailer park would just pay, I suppose, a monthly usage depending on volume for access to.
Yeah, the way it's structured is a base fee just to take care of the basics, and then there is a consumption fee. So depending pay per gallon, right? It's very similar. The other day I was getting coffee from an espresso machine, self-serve, and I say, so how much did this machine cost you? And the guy running the canteen said, oh, no, this is just a service. We just pay by the cup. Right? Now,
really,
maybe it's more money, but guess what? They don't have to maintain the machine. They don't have to buy the coffee. They don't have to do anything. The thing sits over there and people happily get their coffee. And so that's the beauty of a service, right? Where if it's not your core business, then why should you do it? For most people, water treatment is not their core business. It used to be delegated to the city. Now I'm stuck with it. Well, I'd rather just delegate it. Like, okay, you handle it, do all the maintenance, everything's good, and I just keep making beer or running a housing development or whatever, right?
Yeah. So it really is water as a service, as in software as a service. You're just it's basically plug and play. I just need this to be taken care of. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to really pay very much for it. And I'll just Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. On the investor side, someone asked earlier, do you have to be...
Well, that's a very good question.
If
if you go to originclear.com and top right, there's an Invest Now button. And in the US, you need to be accredited, which means you make $200,000 a year as an individual, $300,000 as a joint, as a couple. And by the way, that does not mean just married. It means any cohabitant. Or have a net worth of $1 million outside of your primary home. Now, if you're investing from outside the US, you should be accredited, but it's not subject to the same controls. So it's really your own decision based on your own country's accreditation requirements. If you say you're accredited, fine. In the US, we're required to verify that you are. If you're coming from outside the US, then it's pretty much on your say-so. So now, technically, it's a $100,000 investment, but we do take less because we find that people invest multiple times. They like it. They get their royalties. They get 25% of the net profits from all the. We've organized these into a series of water demand subsidiaries, and we put you in one of them. And now you're going to get a percentage, 25% of the net profits, as defined in the offering, from the operations. And you're going to get a substantial stock grant and also what's called warrants, which is options to buy it in the future at a predetermined price. And why are we doing all that? Well, because you're early, you're a co-founder, right? Down the road, it'll only be royalties and it'll be a good deal. Today, since it's just starting, you're taking a risk, and we acknowledge that, which is why we make you a stockholder as well. Now, we had a breakthrough which allows us to play in water on demand for regular businesses, because we acquired a technology in 2018 called modular water systems. And it's prefab water treatment systems that are all identical. It seems logical, right? Well, it turns out that a lot of water systems are built, custom. Well, we have a line of systems, and if you go to modularwater.com, you'll see them. These are, box standard machines, and that enables us to standardize the fleet that we're sending out here. And it also enabled us to shrink. When you go into local businesses, you got to go smaller. You got to get down to $500,000 to $2 million systems, and that's a challenge. Always a challenge. So we feel we've conquered that with our unique technology. It wouldn't be possible without it, because think about it. You have 100 or 200 of these systems all over America, and they're all different. Try to manage those, right? You got to have to standardize.
What you're doing sounds extremely impressive. And what do you see as the future?
We want to delegate the actual building and supporting of these systems to local water companies all over America and eventually the world. That's scalable, right? That's playing the finance game, contract management, project management, but not doing the actual building and supporting, which is going to allow us to do parallel processing, right? Work with multiple deals because we have water companies elsewhere. We'll bring in the investors, we'll give them a viable deal or a generous deal, and then we'll invest it. And the good thing for the investor is they have an asset sitting there, because we don't sell that asset, we hold it. This takes us to where the future is for the company. By building this asset base, we are automatically building enterprise value. We're moving on to hopefully the NASDAQ, right? But for that, you need substantial assets. So by not selling these machines, keeping them in our inventory, we create an asset base which makes us more and more bankable over time. And then you get into leverage and all kinds of interesting ways of financing things. So we want to solve the financial problem related to putting in water treatment in your business. We have the technology solution, but the manpower is the entire world of water service companies.
Well, Riggs, thank you so much for your time. I think the work that you're doing with OriginClear, it's amazing, and I think you're absolutely right. It's you're creating this system and infrastructure to help reduce the amount of wastewater going into places that shouldn't be, like rivers and oceans, while also helping companies and governments to be more effective and to save money and and to really make a difference. Yeah, thank you again so much for your time, and I think what you're doing is fantastic, and wishing you all the best.
I love your mission.
As you continue.
Thank you very much, and good luck to your work as well.
So that was very cool indeed. I'm going to slip right into the preview of the Water on Demand Summit last week. Okay, so here we go.
Everybody needs to understand why water on demand. So if anybody's asking, the company needs to have an answer. And also from the standpoint of why we are raising capital. Why? What is the benefit in that? And maybe more than everything else, we have all synced throughout the group.
Well, that's excellent. You know, most of the world does not realize there's a problem. Yeah. They know, oh, Flint, they hear about things popping up, but they don't know why. And why did Flint fall apart? Well, it was a symptom of a deeper problem, which is the underfunding of infrastructure in our country and the total lack of infrastructure in other countries, which kills people in India. The sewer workers, you know, several thousand every year that die from sewer gas. And so we are really moving into a phase of infrastructure-less water treatment. Zero infrastructure.
Infrastructure less would almost, and again, you get into that wireless, right? It's that same major shift in how infrastructure is delivered, right? And I think when Rig said the average person doesn't know, the major advantage that we have is that industry does. You know, when you talk to anybody who's ever made anything, built anything, farmed anything, they will go on and they'll tell you all day what a terrible problem water is. So raising the awareness to the public, I think elicits the type of excited advocacy that we want to see in this project, but the end user demand right now is just, you know, it's enormous.
So the issue is people instinctively feel there's a problem, like Flint problem, and I constantly get people going, what are you doing about Flint? Well, that's just like bailing a boat that's got a hole in it. Fix the hole. Right. You're bailing, and that's what's happening. So, you know, these issues of brownwater in Compton, and people don't even know about South Bend, which has all those layers of toxic waste in those places. And then places like Miami-Dade, Fort Lauderdale with endless water main breaks. So those are all those are things that poke up above the general clutter. But we got to get to the underlying issue. The underlying issue is that the paradigm of central water treatment, which was taken for granted, is gone. It's like those huge, you know, concrete spillways in LA that are always, they never have any water. Yeah. You know, and they might have water once in 1,000 years. Yep. That was the big concrete thing. Yeah. But A, you would never build those today, and B, you would build them more responsibly, you know, the way they're trying to do now. So I think we need to think of water as root causes. Correct. The root cause of water problems has to do with how humans are using it and treating it and so forth. And if we can, essentially it's a responsibility game, right? Let people be responsible for their own water treatment, and they, driven by a profit motive, will reuse it, will husband it, will use the gray water to water the plants, all that stuff.
Not only let it, encourage it. We've treated the symptom constantly. We've never gotten at the disease, which is fix it where it's getting made really bad. And it gets better everywhere downstream, and not by a little, by a lot.
It all fits together. A test of a good strategy, is it internally consistent? Is it consistent with the needs in the market? Is it consistent with the interests and needs of investors? If you're a brewery, you stay focused on making, advertising, and selling beer. You know, you're not worried about having to hire somebody to be like a water technician, you know, that's now either on your full-time payroll or part-time payroll. You just stay focused on your business. You pay a monthly bill based on what you use, so you're not being gouged. And you just move on, and you stay focused on your specialty, and you don't waste time. So it's a system that provides tremendous efficiency throughout and enables us to catch up in the sectors that are most needy faster without having to wait for a major infrastructure government-led program. So I think that internal consistency of all these pieces is what is actually giving me huge confidence that it's going to be, you know, a very successful program.
Wow, so isn't that cool?
Wow, it really is. It really is.
Fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I've got a couple more slides to go that are kind of cool, and then we're going to get into our famous three-way where we basically the sky's the limit, and it gets kind of cool. Now I just wanted to quickly check There we go. I've got some great chats. Keith Roden, awesome that we can relate and associate water to a commodity and asset. Definitely it is the final part of this presentation. Here we go. All right, big news from Phil and some investors, our partners. Origin Clear was featured in an event organized by Keller Williams and in Hawaii. Origin Clear was featured in the Awardpreneurs Mastermind. That's an interesting term, but it's apparently a big deal. And also featured in the We Invested podcast to a 700-person audience. So well done and continue. All right, and this brings us to the open discussion. So gentlemen, jump on with me and let's talk about what's been happening.
Sorry, Andrea, I didn't have the power.
Hello, everyone.
We've done it. Yeah, you know, it's Zoom is very hierarchical. You know, you have to have the power. And if you don't have the power, then you are not in bad shape. Andrea, where are you?
I am currently in the lounge of Air Emirates, about to take a flight to
You're about
Emirates.
to take off.
In about 3 hours, then 2 hours.
Well, fantastic. Good for you.
Going to Italy, going to see the family in Italy. I don't know if you know, guys, I sent, I believe, one message to Reeds, but you know what my friends are sending me from Italy? They're sending me newspaper magazines that is basically outlining all page. I can even share the screen and show you the problem with water. That basically they're saying the unseen problem is coming up now.
There you go.
They are really publishing this thing. And recently there was a commercial and a campaign done by Giorgio Armani in regards to involving models to promote the problem of water, saying that this is a problem nobody talks about and is bigger than the energy crisis. And I thought it was quite interesting. It's coming up now.
Well, anything involving models is a wonderful idea.
Right. And I think it was very considerate of them to wait till we were ready. I mean, that was nice.
They actually, I think that they gave you a call, Ken. They said, Ken, can we go? And you said, thumbs up. Thumbs up, Giorgio.
Right.
I gave them my blessing. Okay.
Yeah, you
That's
gave me my blessing.
No,
I gave you my blessing.
You know, the funny thing is that we talked about this at the summit, right? The general awareness has always been there. It's kind of been like a low level background hum, right? Like we kind of knew. And remember when I stood on your deck and I said, who here drinks tap water? Raise your hand. And like nobody did. So look, if you're not drinking it, you know, right? But I think it's rising to the top of kind of global social conscience that this is no longer, you know, somebody else. I think for a long time, it was viewed as somebody else's problem. And I apologize for my voice in the video. That was Andrea's fault because of karaoke. That's why I couldn't speak in the video. That's why I wasn't doing my Godfather imitation. I really had lost my voice.
We took Ken to we worked all day long, a bunch of meetings one after the other, and then the night we took him to karaoke with the rest of the executive team just to have a moment all together. And
I wasn't going to sing it all, and then I was up there like, you know, AC/DC, right? So it was fun. All right, but so getting back to business, I think that the idea for a long time it was someone else's problem, and I think now the consciousness has changed. You know, it's basically like, no, it's all of our problems, and it needs to be solved. And it couldn't have happened at a better time when we're finally kind of moving towards a truly globally scalable type of solution. So it's timing is everything.
David Johnson is asking, can long-term investors beat the GA models? I love Ken, but what does that mean? You gotta love Ken unconditionally. We can't have any of this.
He does. He didn't mean that.
But what is a GA model? I'm like general and administrative. I'm not sure. So I'm asking for David to clarify that. But here's the bottom line. Yeah, here's the deal. Long-term investors do really well in this model. The breakthrough was a perpetual royalty model, right? As long as your money is invested, and as long as it is in a program, then it is getting the net profit. And we'll continue to see these. By the way, these programs are very long. Typically, a customer will sign a 10 or 15 year service contract, and then we roll the same equipment over into the next. And by the way, I think, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Do you realize what's going on here? Emil George
Yes.
just clarified.
No, David, the models are mine.
So I was taking it seriously.
honey?
You guys
No, I was
are
just kidding.
wacko. You guys are crazy. I was actually taking it seriously.
I know, we were thinking of GA models, okay. General administrative, so let's get into that, right?
Can
It's
long-term
good to-
investors, okay, now this rephrases this question. Can long-term investors meet the Giorgio Armani models? I love Ken Butt. That's what's going on, right? And I think that we could, in fact, Andrea, we have an amazing and high integrity, beautiful woman who is a potential influencer for us, who was in the summit, who was interviewed, who will be part of our coverage in weeks to come. And long-term investors might even be allowed to meet her, but that would be.
And she's hysterically funny and can sing like an angel, by the way.
I didn't know that.
Oh my God. When usually that beautifully, like, she can't sing, and you're like, wow, she can sing. Yeah, she's and she's a comedian. She's really, she's a joy to be around. So, but something I did want to mention, considering when David, because we will talk about Origin Clear a little bit, the long-term investors, we've had a bit of a breakthrough on the kind of royalties that can be generated for this, because it doesn't have to be a cash for cash arrangement. Standard utilities leverage their equipment sometimes as high as 10 to 1. So with very, very modest leverage of cash in hand, we could, with 150,000 or so, 150 million or so dollars worth of actual capital for equipment deployment, we could control as much as, Riggs, what we said, about almost $500 million worth of equipment. So these royalty models actually become really, really rich. I mean, they were rich to start with, but if you could potentially, and we would pass that on to the investors, it would be their 25% profit share. So it's just 25% of $500 million rather than 150 million. So it ends up being, something like, I believe that $300 million totally invested in the model could be generating something as much as $904 million
for the investors.
For the investors, that's their portion, right? It would do about 3.9 billion on a 20-year cycle for the whole project, but a little under $1 billion. So it's over 300%. So this goes from like to wow, and who knows? We may have great access. This is new, so they're probably not going to bank us. Like you said, you become more bankable as you grow this thing. They may not treat this like a standard 30-year kind of operating thing, like a utility, and give you 10 to 1. It may end up only being 5 to 1, right? But even at 3 to 1.
My understanding of finance is that it's really based more on the wizardry of finance versus what's actually real. What Wall Street engages in, well, it's kind of a shell game. In fact, they leverage up as high as 26 to 1 because, of course, banks
bring in mortgage derivatives, right?
But we do not plan to have a water on demand, junk bonds
derivative
problem,
instrument. No,
right?
No.
Because one of the things I want to do is, and this is going to be policy, if we do leverage these funds, we're going to hedge, right? We want to make sure, so it's going to reduce the leverage, but it will be hedged. In other words, I want a safe position. I don't want to go just woohoo, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a long-term play. So it may go down to 5 to 1 for that reason alone, right? Because of the need to do counter risk.
The number I gave you is at 3 to 1. The number I gave you is at 3 to 1. So it's really, really modest.
That is, I think it's very achievable. Good. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful night. And I just wanted to jump back into the presentation because I'm going to tell you something that is going on here. And that is participating in our future, of course, which Ken is your man to talk about. Simply go to oc.gold/Ken. And you need to book time with him because he's got it going on. I'm just saying.
Well, just ask Dave, he can tell you.
Exactly. Dave, but the problem is Ken is not a Giorgio Armani model. That's the issue.
No, I don't even wear Giorgio Armani suits.
Should I share the screen and show the model? Like I don't know. It seems like there was
We
something.
gotta leave, we have to
not
leave some
believe,
mystique for next time. Let's do it as a coming attraction.
Coming attraction, Giorgio Armani model. But also we will have the Money Show presentation that Ken gave today, which is very interesting. And so I look forward to everyone being with us next week. And it's been really fascinating. I loved the summit. And by the way, there was so many things that we covered specifically in detail. What you saw was kind of the fluff. This was some serious action. What it was the beginning of the water on demand rollout. And we are spending time right now seeing how can we turn the brand into a worldwide brand as a pure play, what we call a pure play. What is a pure play? That is something that is only that thing. And I'm unable to say more than that, but believe me, it's exciting and it's very, very good for those investors who have had the courage to jump into the water on demand program. And we love you dearly for having done so. So thank you all. You're wonderful. And we will see you again next week. Bye for now.
And I think they're gonna love us. I think they're gonna love us back. I think they're gonna love us back when they see it all roll out. So good night,
I
folks.
totally agree. Good night.
Great way to end it.
Safe travels, Andrea.
Yeah, fly safe, my friend.